the early 1900s, a former Baptist minister named S.M. Skaggs opened a supermarket, grocery store, basically. His acceptable payment terms were cash, and that was all. He felt that credit purchases were evil. He accepted cash. It was the safe way to shop. He named his store appropriately. They still exist today. They're called Safeway. Have you ever heard of a term called the Roaring Twenties? This refers to the 1920s in America, where business was booming, and the stock market was booming as well. You could buy into the stock market, just the average Joe, who had no knowledge and no business being in the stock market, but they could get into it. Say for a $100 share, you could buy in for $10 on a call loan. Call margins, that's where we get the term from. There was one catch to this. You initially bought in, say, for $10 on a $100 share, and you just paid the rest over time. The one catch was, with one well-placed phone call, you had 24 hours to pay off the difference of your share or lose it. In the 1920s, the expansion of the stock market was massive. It was overinflated, quite similar to the one we have now. United States bankers and industrialists actually transported Winston Churchill to America in late 1929 to witness firsthand the awesome power of the banking institutions. And then there was a giant crash. And the originator of these problems? Credit. Also in the 1920s, you could buy a piece of Americana, the American dream, to own your own farm. And all it took was a small down payment, and you just paid the rest over time. But as a farmer, you're banking on a good crop to make those payments every year. You have taxes, you have your overhead, you had seed costs, you had shipping costs, which at the time through the railroad were just astronomical. And you were dependent on good weather. Farming has always been hit or miss. But as a farmer, probably the least wise thing you could do was assume things on credit. Furthermore, we had the proliferation of the tractor. Well, most American farmers couldn't afford a tractor, but they could with a small down payment and just pay the rest on time, with your credit. It worked out fine until it didn't. I've actually seen and read online one young lady woke up in the middle of the night, panic-stricken, out of a dead sleep, to check her online credit score. It had that much of an effect on her. The trouble with that is, credit is only good for borrowing more money. When you look at most of the problems in this country, most of them, basically, come from credit. Borrowing. The borrower is slave to the lender. He who pays the piper calls the tune. These sayings are sayings for a reason. Now think about the possible advantages of credit from the lender's point of view. This is all-encompassing. Your job that maybe started out as a great job and then they replaced the supervisor, and this guy's totally incompetent. He shouldn't have ever been the boss. And this is usually how this goes. He just knew somebody, or he's good at, shining up his nose really good. And now you're miserable. But you can't afford to quit. You have payments because you assumed credit. Now there are uses, valid uses for credit, and there has been a lot of people make a lot of money using someone else's money to generate their own wealth. I understand that. But by and large, for most American people, credit is disastrous. It is ruinous. Now, the government has passed all kinds of laws limiting how much interest they can charge, and they've got to give full disclosure of the terms, and now they have a printed thing where, if you pay this off just using the minimum payments, this is how much it'll cost you. These are required now by the government to lenders. You have to full disclosure now. Is it really the creditor's fault that this is a problem? Or does it boil down to the average American who just keeps signing and signing. Yeah, there's an extra $60 a month. This bill's only $37 a month. So if everything goes perfectly, I don't lose my health, I don't lose my job, nothing increases in price, I should probably be able to afford it. That seems to me to be a really bad idea. In essence, you're gambling. You are betting that your current situation will remain stable or improve in order for you to keep making these payments. But when you take on a car note payment, you're gambling that anywhere in this duration, 4 years, 6.5 years, 7 years and 2 months, that your future self is going to be able to afford that payment. And you have no way of knowing that. None whatsoever. I have been broke many times in my life as an adult. What I can tell you is, it's one thing to be broke. It is quite another thing to owe. You've used that credit now. You've built up a stack of bills. Those people want to be paid. And it is amazing the lengths they will go to get their money. So is it even possible anymore to work without credit? Absolutely. I have no idea what my credit score is. I haven't looked at it in, I think, 11 years when I bought this here house. Personally, I don't believe in buying vehicles on credit. Sometimes it can't be helped. I've done it. I've done it many times. I've never liked it, but I never felt easy signing my name in that gamble, saying I can look into the future and I can see myself and guarantee you that in 4 years down the road, I'll be able to pay for this every single month. I don't like it. It's risky business. If you're young and listening to this, I would strongly advise you and encourage you to stay clear of that credit trap. I mean, look at it now. Look what college debt has done to this country's youth. Just sign. All you gotta do is sign. And now the banking institutions are giving money, paying the college institutions to let them set up a little table, Visa, MasterCard, it's everywhere you want to be. And most places that you don't. But you get a free t-shirt if you just fill out the credit application. And I'll get a free sport bottle. I'll fill that out, and next thing you know, you've been approved with no income, no verifiable work history, but you're approved. Now you got this card. Charge. You can buy anything you want. Anything that money will buy. Credit. But it's got to be paid back. And with interest. So can you buy a vehicle with no credit? Absolutely you can. You can buy one for $800. And then maybe save up your money. You're using your vehicle to get to work. I understand how it works. And then maybe save up your money, and then maybe later on you can get a $1,400 vehicle, a little nicer. Maybe a little later you get a $2,700 vehicle, and you just keep improving, depending on how much money you want to throw at vehicles. About the only thing that's really could be considered insurmountable as far as a consumer purchase in America would be a home. The price tags are so large you almost have to assume some debt. This business of sweating over your credit report, prior to 1980, there were no credit reports. The banks had manual underwriters. They actually, instead of just clicking a mouse, they actually picked up the phone, dialed the numbers, and they called the people that you had revolving credit with. And I don't mean credit, like your electric company. Did you pay your phone bill on time? Did you pay the water bill on time? Have you paid your rent on time? We have a kind of a history here. Okay, well, maybe they seem, I've looked at his income. I've looked at her responsibility. Has she lived and say they were manually underwriting these loans, and they approved or denied based on that. And back then you had to have, it was not uncommon to have 20% down for any kind of larger purchases. It is absolutely possible to live without credit now. This takes a little more self-discipline. But that same self-discipline, perhaps initial denial, I got to wait. I got to stack up my funds. A lot of times you'll find that all that work and all the saving that you did to get whatever this magical purchase was that you just had to have, by the time you get there and you have the whatever, $3,000 saved up, you don't want it anymore. Or you stop and think like, man, that took me 2 months to make that money. And I'm going to get a bullet all one shot on a basketball goal that flips the ball back to me? This is stupid. I'm not doing this. The more and more people have gotten used to swiping these cards, they've done studies on it. There's no physical pain to the transaction. You're not sending off the $50 bill and only getting a little bit of change back. You send off the card and they swipe it and you get the card back. You're not out anything until the bill comes due. It has become ruinous to this country, especially the youth who have racked up $30,000, $50,000, $90,000, $300,000 in debt to universities, payable with interest, mind you, for a job that pays $46,000 a year. I mean, you ought to be able to look at that and do the math and think there's no way. Why would any sensible person do this? But I understand the follies of youth. I was young once too, and made stupid financial decisions. There are adults that play this game too. I've known tons of them, because most people that are adults play this game. They just play it on a bigger number. Well, you just, direct deposit, that money's taken automatic. It's easy, it's quick, it's fine. These same people now are starting to complain about the possibilities of a CBDC, a central bank digital currency. The same people that have swiped the cards over and over and over and over now haven't seen cash money in 3 years or 7 years or however long it's been. Those same people now are complaining about, you gave them that power. CBDCs are probably a topic for a video on its own. But for today's purposes, most of the credit problems on the consumer level, on the individual level, it's just total self-sabotage. You did it to yourself. And to look for a way out of that, you can file bankruptcy. You can't file bankruptcy on student loan. You can't file it on hospital bills. Somebody's going to pay that money back with interest. Make no mistake about that. Highly encourage you to stay out of it. Look for another way, a way around it. I mean, heck, at base level, if you don't have any money, isn't the last thing you want to do is borrow more of it from someone? I hope this gave you something to think about and something to consider. Hopefully you found some benefit in it. Thank you for watching. I do appreciate your time. If you want to like and subscribe if you haven't, awesome. If you want to share the video with someone you think could benefit from it, all for that. You see, it all helps the complicated algorithm with the thing and the deal. That's what I'm saying. I do appreciate your time. I'll see you next time.